2025. Now I will share an overview with you of the election timeline. Applications to serve on the city's community and citywide education councils opened on January 13th, and they will remain open through February 16th. Between the end of February and the end of April, each district will hold candidate forums where the candidates will be able to share their views with constituents. Voting for the councils starts on April 25th and will conclude on May 13th. Election results will be announced in June, and each of these council seats will be held for 2 years. Next, we will view a video together that illustrates the education councils and why they matter. Thank you.
You might not believe this, but families help make big decisions about schools in New York City. Through community and citywide education councils, or CCECs, parents are elected to represent their communities and work on improving schools. They play an important role in decisions like approving school zoning lines, recommending how school buildings should be used, and contributing to the hiring process for superintendents and parent coordinators. CECs also meet with superintendents and principals to evaluate educational programs, discuss what families and students need, and make sure those voices are heard. Plus, they organize public meetings and town halls with the chancellor, giving families a platform to share their ideas and concerns. In addition to the 32 district community councils, there are 4 citywide education councils: the Citywide Council on High Schools, the Citywide Council on Special Education, the Citywide Council for District 75, and the Citywide Council on English Language Learners. Are you interested in making a difference? Join an education council and help shape the future of schools in our city. When families, schools, and communities work together, students do their best, not just in school, but in life.
Thank you so much, Eloise, for that video. And everyone, just wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about, why you should apply, and just go over some of the points that were shared in the video, but kind of expand on them a little bit further. It's always very difficult to share the entire scope of the impact of Citywide and Community Education Council members. They are an incredible and essential partner in our work in improving the lives of students and families. But just sharing with you a few points here, Community and Citywide Education Councils, better known as CCECs, give parents like you the opportunity to make decisions that impact your children's education. Through the CCs, you're elected to represent your communities and collaborate on improving schools. And CCs play an important role. And some of the roles that they play are improving school zoning lines, recommending how school buildings should be used, and contributing to the hiring process for superintendents and parent coordinators. I also like to take a moment to talk about also personally why I feel that you should consider and definitely would love, we have quite a few people on the meeting today, would love all of you to apply to be on a council. 23 years ago, going to be 24 years ago, my life was changed very dramatically when my oldest son was diagnosed with autism. He lost the ability to speak in a matter of months. And over time, we, in going through several doctors, we realized that, he was diagnosed with autism. At that point, my wife and I knew nothing about the education system, but we knew that getting involved in the education system and getting involved in roles of leadership and advocacy was very key in being able to not only be a voice for our son, but over time be a voice for others. So my first town hall meeting where I was a part of, I'm from the Bronx in District 8. There was a microphone there, and my wife literally pushed me, shoved me to the microphone. And I turned to her and I said, "What would you like me to say?" She says, "Tell everyone how much you love our son." And I think what her point was, and the point that I'd like to make to everyone here on this line at this meeting, is that we shared with you a few points of what CCs do, but the most important things that they do is that they're the voice of families and families' wishes for their children. It first starts with, a motivation. All of you are here getting information at this webinar because something has motivated you to find out more information because you want to serve. Whether it's your own child, whether it's a niece, nephew, or whether it's that, you're very dedicated to your community and you want to make a difference. Whatever that is that's motivating you to serve, I want to really kind of encourage you to take the next steps to after this conversation, ask as many questions as you can and become involved in being representatives for your communities, because the best qualification is what you already have, an interest and dedication that brought you here to today's conversation. So just wanted to underscore that. A few points I want to make here is for the last, the application cycle is every 2 years. Members who are elected to Citywide and Community Education Council serve 2-year terms. So the last time there was an election was 2 years ago in 2023. So we just wanted to share with you a bit about some of the numbers there. The student population was a little less than 1 million, and the parents that applied were exactly 1,040 parents who applied, and votes were 19,000. We share these numbers with all of you to really encourage increased participation, to encourage as many families to apply, because every parent who's a parent who has a child within the school system is eligible to apply for councils, whether in their district or whether in the population of the students that they represent. So I just wanted to share this to really kind of underscore that we want as many parents to participate as possible, because it's very important that all voices throughout our entire system are represented in the very important part of our of our students' well-being, and also our governance structures that are essential part in our work here at New York City Public Schools. So with that said, I know that I've shared a bit about my personal journey here, but I just wanted to take a moment to introduce a colleague of mine, uh, Tessa Wilson, who, in addition to being just an outstanding colleague and member of the Office of Family and Community Empowerment, served previously on a Community Education Council. And you'll hear from her. And I just think that there's no better testimonial than someone who has served in this role before, who can share with you the impact and the importance, and urge everyone to apply. So with that said, Tessa, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Jesse. And I want to say good evening to everyone and to just express with you that it's an honor to be with you tonight and to talk about something that's been a driving force in my life. And that's advocating for our children and strengthening the partnership between families and schools. As Jesse shared, my name is Tessa Wilson, and my journey in education advocacy began the same way many of yours might. It started as me simply being a concerned parent and wanting the best for my child. And that concern turned into action. And for over 15 years, I had the pleasure of serving on the Community Education Council for District 14. I had the chance to serve as 5 years as president and those other years in different roles. And I had so much of an honor representing the neighborhoods of Williamsburg, Greenpoint, Bedford-Stuyvesant, and Bushwick. And I had the chance to work alongside families, educators, community leaders to ensure that every child had access to the quality education that they deserve. But my work didn't stop there. You know, I had the privilege of serving on my community board, and I also got to be a learning leader and to contribute on the Chancellor's Blue Book Working Group, the District 14 leadership team, our 14 Diversity Task Force, and I also had the pleasure of being a founding member of the Education Council's Consortium. Why am I sharing this with you? Because my journey started just like yours, by stepping forward. Serving on the Community Education Council isn't just about meetings and policies. It's about making a real difference and an impact on the future of our children. And it's about ensuring every family having a voice that shapes the decisions concerning our schools. So if you're thinking about running for a seat on the Community Education Council, I encourage you to take that step. Your experiences, your insight, your passions are exactly what our school communities need. Advocacy is not about having all the answers. That's something I never had. But it's about being willing to listen, to learn, and to lead. And most of all, understand that our children, they're counting on us. So let's make sure that they have the champions that they deserve. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight. And I hope you consider the challenge and step up and do some good for the children and families in your communities. Like I said, they need you, but more importantly, they need us. So join the Community Education Council, make a difference, do some good, and let's serve the children of the city of New York. That's what it's all about. Thank you so very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Tessa, for that amazing testimonial and for your past service and your continued service in your role within FACE. At this point in time, I wanted to turn it over to our Senior Director of Governance, Rebecca Rosado, who's going to give us an overview of the Citywide and Community Education Councils.
Good evening, everyone. As Jesse mentioned, my name is Rebecca Rosado, and I'm the Senior Director of the Governance team here in the Office of Family and Community Empowerment. And I am going to hopefully be able to answer some questions by sharing with you the structure of our citywide and community education councils and how that works within the larger framework of parent engagement and involvement within New York City public schools. So within this chart that we're sharing with you on screen now, there are 3 levels of service that families can be involved in when it comes to being a representative of parent voice in these different structures that support school voice and community voice. And so at the most foundational level, which is sort of the basis for all the work that we do, is the school level, here highlighted in blue. And there are 3 structures. There are the parent associations or the parent teacher associations, the PTAs. Perhaps you serve in one, perhaps your parents served in one. I know my mom served in mine. We also have our school leadership teams, and we also have our Title I parent advisory councils, or PACs. And these are parent leadership structures within schools that help inform policy, do fundraising, and also provide support around student achievement by offering workshops to families in schools. And these parent leadership structures are supported primarily by the parent coordinators in each of our schools, who do such an important job of supporting our parent leaders. At a borough or district level, we have these 5 leadership structures. So we have our district presidents' councils, which are representations of all the parent associations or the PTAs in a district. We have our district Title I parent advisory councils that are the representation of the school level Title I PACs, but on a district level. We also have our borough high school presidents councils for all high schools that have PAs and PTAs. They are represented on a borough level through these high school presidents councils. We also have the district leadership teams that again are representative of the school leadership teams. And then last but certainly not least, we have our community education councils, which we'll be speaking more in depth about later. And all of these structures are supported by the family leadership coordinators on a district level that work under the superintendent. And then last but certainly not least, we have our citywide level of parent involvement and parent leadership structures. And so we have the panel for education policy. We have the parent advisory council, or the chancellor CPAC, which is the representation of all the president's council presidents on a citywide level. And we have the Education Council Consortium, or the ECC, that Tessa spoke about earlier, which is all the CEC presidents in one space. But then we also have our 4 citywide councils: the Council on High Schools, the Citywide Council on Special Education, the Citywide Council for English Language Learners, and the Council for D75. And these structures are supported directly by this office, the Office of Family and Community Empowerment. And all of these structures are scaffolded in supporting each other, meaning that the Office of Family and Community Empowered not only just supports these citywide structures, but we also support the family leadership coordinators at the district level and the parent coordinators at a school level, so that there is a shared understanding of what parent leadership is across all schools within our purview. Next slide, please. And so, what are community education councils? This is a brief overview of what the composition of the membership of each of the citywide councils is comprised of. So the community education councils, I should say, are districts 1 through 32, and they represent generally schools K through 8. So each of those councils has 2 non-voting high school seniors per council, and they also have 12 voting members, 10 that are selected through this elections process happening this season, and 2 that are appointed by the borough president of the borough in which they sit in. And of the 10 elected parents per each of those councils, there is 1 seat reserved for the parent or caregiver of a student that is an English language learner. 1 seat is reserved for the parent or caregiver of a student that has an individualized education program or an IEP. And 1 of those seats is reserved for the parent or caregiver of a student in a District 75 program. Next slide, please. And for our citywide councils, which I had mentioned were 4 of them before, there's different compositions for each of those councils as well. So for the citywide council for high schools, there are 13 voting members, 10 elected through this election process this season, 1 that is appointed by the public advocate's office. They select 1 appointee, and then 2 appointees from the other citywide councils that appoint a member of their own to serve as a liaison. 1 from the Citywide Council for English Language Learners, or CCEL, and 1 from the Citywide Council on Special Education. The remaining 3 citywide councils each have 11 voting members, 9 of which are elected through the selection process this season, and 2 that are appointed by the Office of the Public Advocate. And each of them have a non-voting high school senior as part of their membership as well. So a student who would be currently serving in their senior year of high school would be appointed to serve on these councils as well. Next slide, please. So what are the powers and the responsibilities of these community education councils? So the community education councils tend to advise on policy and priorities around education and social emotional learning. And of the things that they do to support that priority include issuing an annual report, attending and leading public meetings and events, like your business meetings, your committee meetings, certain hearings. Comment on educational policies as brought forth during the public comments section or during the superintendent's report. Make recommendations on how to improve education for each of their populations that they represent, whether it's through their community education council, their geographic district, or each of the 4 citywide councils and the populations that they serve. They review and assess educational programs that are brought forth district-wide by the superintendent and offer comments on that as well. They advise the chancellor and the panel for education policy, especially when it comes to contracts and budgets. And then they submit a capital plan recommendation to the chancellor for priorities within their district that they want to highlight for funding. And last but not least, they also support approving zoning lines for each of their districts. Next slide, please. Other powers and responsibilities that are part of the Community Education Council's purview include holding public meetings that are subject to open meetings law. So a monthly calendar meeting with the superintendent, where the superintendent offers a report monthly. And then there's also an opportunity for public comment from members of the community to also engage in the topics discussed during the meeting. Public meetings and events like the business or committee meetings and hearings, the chancellor's town halls. So the town halls are an opportunity where the community can hear directly from the chancellor on questions that they ask and that the council asks. And that happens once every 2 years within the district. And so it's very important because it's an opportunity where the community can hear directly from the chancellor on issues that are affecting the district in particular. And hosting joint public meetings with us here at New York City Public Schools on school utilization, on space utilization. Community educations also evaluate the superintendent. As mentioned earlier, select the parent coordinator and liaise. Each of the members of the council liaise to school leadership teams within a cohort of schools within their district. And that is a shared responsibility amongst all members to liaise to each of the school leadership teams to hear about what's happening on a school level and report back during the monthly meetings. Next slide, please. And so we want to talk about the commitment, or, how much time could people perhaps envision being engaged in this work in the given period of time throughout their term. And so we estimate that there's attendance at your regular council meetings to discuss the issues of concerns with your fellow council members. And that would be at a minimum 1 to 2 monthly meetings. Additional meetings are also often scheduled to perhaps discuss agendas and discuss follow-up items that may be included in upcoming meetings or topics or briefs that also need to be prepared. And those things are discussed as a team, as a council. And then also regularly update parents on key developments while hosting events that encourage open dialogue on concerns and solutions to improve the school community. So as I mentioned before, each of the members of the council serve as liaisons to a certain number of schools within their school district. And engaging with families and going and visiting the schools helps to promote that open dialogue about the concerns that families are experiencing within their school community and that members are there to hear in real time. Next slide. So what are the levels of support that you would expect to receive as a member of any given council while you are serving? Is a very important question that we also receive. And so Council members receive continued support from the Office of Family and Community Empowerment. And when your tenure begins with the council, at the beginning of your term, we kick you off with an orientation that is filled with many opportunities for engagement to learn about your roles and responsibilities more deeply, but to also connect and meet some of your fellow council members and also our staff. And you're also given a handbook that is comprehensive in the amount of information it compiles for every member to understand their responsibilities. We also hold trainings at the beginning of your term and throughout the 2-year term that you are serving. Also, each council has a FACE specialist to support and guide them through check-in calls that are regularly hosted by our FACE specialists with council members at the council members' behest and at a time that is convenient to council members. And then also, as I had shared in my first slide, you should also expect a level of support from your district or borough from the family leadership coordinators who are also tasked to be able to offer support and guidance and answers to a lot of these questions as well. With that, I am going to pass on the baton to my colleague, Director of Compliance, Lynn Sanchez.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca. So we're going to continue with the slides into eligibility, which is student driven. And there's 2 examples that I'll go over with you all. Just to share really quickly, a parent with their children linked to their NYCSA account. So I'm gonna stress at every moment the NYCSA accounts. So as long as your children are linked to your NYCSA accounts, you'll be able to see what you're eligible for. So in this slide, there are 2 parents, and we're going to start with Naya, who has a daughter who's a 4th grader. Naya's daughter has an IEP, which is also an individualized education program in District 24. And Naya also has a son who's a 9th grader at a Bronx high school. So Naya has 2 children, and her options, once she logs into her NYCSA account, she's able to see that she has the option to apply to be on a seat for CEC 24 because she has a 4th grader in District 24. But her 4th grader also has an IEP, which qualifies Naya to be to apply for a seat with CCEC, Community Education Citywide Council Special Education, sorry. But then she also has a son who's a 9th grader in a Bronx high school. So she can also apply for a seat on the Citywide Council for high school. Then we have Pablo, who has a 7th grader in District 14 in a middle school. And Pablo's son is also an English language learner. So Pablo has 2 options when he goes in to apply. It will appear that he has an option to apply for a seat on CEC 14, as well as a seat on Citywide Council for English Language Learners. In the moment you log into your NYCSA account, and as long as your children are linked to your account, you see your children's names, you have the option, you will click apply for CEC or the CEC application. The moment you click and you get to the application, it tells you what you're eligible for. Next slide, please. Here is a graphed candidate eligibility, and it basically gives you a breakdown. So CECs for Community Education Council, and this is on a district level, it covers students from grades pre-K through 8th grade. And it's a parent who is eligible to run for the district between 1 and 32, where their child's school is located. And I'm just going to go through these really quickly. D75 parent on CEC, it covers from pre-K to 12th grade. And this is for a parent of a student in a D75 school located in the geographical district of the CEC, of the Community Education Council seat. Then we have CCHS, which is Citywide Council for High School. Student grades are 9th through 12th. A parent is eligible to run for one of 2 seats in the borough where their children's school is located. Then you have CCSE, Citywide Council for Special Education. This covers 3K through grades 12. And it's a parent of a student with an IEP, an individualized education program that receives services paid for by the Department of by New York City Public School, whether in charter, private, or public school. Then you have Citywide Council on English Language Learners, and it covers students from grades K through 12. It's a parent of an English language learner student in a non-charter public school that is eligible. Lastly, we have Citywide Council for D75, and this as well as pre-K through 12. A parent of a student in a District 75 school is eligible. These are the eligibility that we just went through. Next slide, please. And going back to the NYCSA process. So this is a very small, short video that just shows you, right? The moment you log in, it shows you your child's name and the tabs that you can click on. Once you get to the screen, you can click on yes, you're gonna apply. It asks you to reconfirm that that's what you're doing. Student information, so it does give you your child's name and what you're eligible for. You pick the choices and then you rank the choices. So going back to the 2 examples, Naya has the examples of District 24, Community Education Council, Special Education, and a Citywide Council for High School. Once when you go into NYCSA and you select where you're going, then you rank your applications in order from highest to least. How do you apply? You go onto NYCSA. And if you have any troubles getting into your NYCSA account, please reach out to your parent coordinator, the parent coordinator of your children's school, to get support. Whether it's that you've never created an account, you would need a specific code to begin the account, or if you need to reset the NYCSA password as well, your parent coordinator is there to support you with that process. Next slide, please. The applications. So we want to make sure that we're transparent with the application process. So the application, once you begin the process, there is a personal statement and it's optional, but it also helps voters understand why you're running, who you are, and what you have done if you've been on PAs or President's Council, or the reason why you're running. It's your personal statement. It's something that once the application period is closed, it'll be posted on the New York City Public School website, and folks will be able to see it. But as well, when you go into your candidate forum, that is also available to the voters. So there will be a request, and it's optional for a personal statement. The statement should be brief, no more than 500 words or 500 characters. Can be written in your preferred language. So it can be written and it'll get translated. It could be written in the language of your preference. Lastly, for assistance with the application, please feel free to email elections2025@schools.nyc.gov for support. Next slide, please. And then lastly, the application drop-in hours, we will beginning February 5th, which is tomorrow, through February 14th. Please use this QR code if you're able to zoom in with your phone. Excuse me. There will be Zoom sessions for application assistance, and the purpose for this space is to help with completing applications and or to answer questions, but also to ensure that someone's made available for anyone that is in need of any type of assistance. So we are making ourselves available for further support or for support. Next slide. And now we're going into the Q&A session, so I'll pass it back to Jesse.
Thanks so much, Lynn. I see that there have been questions coming in through the Q&A. So once again, everyone, if you have a question, please submit it in the Q&A and we will ask your question. Also, for those individuals receiving interpretation services, periodically, as I ask these questions, I will be going to the interpretation lines to check in to see if there are any questions in our interpretation rooms as well. So the first question is, will the slides be emailed to all attendees? Absolutely. We will email these slides to everyone who's attending here, along with the recording of today's session. Next question is, how do we figure out which council to run for? As my colleague, Director Sanchez said before, when you apply within NYCSA, it will determine based on where your child goes to school or what program your child is enrolled in, basically what your eligibility would be. For instance, if I have, a child who attends school in District 8 and attends elementary school from K to 8 or pre-K to 8 in District 8, then I would be eligible to serve on CC8. If I also had a second child who was in District 75 and was receiving services through District 75, then I can apply to two councils. I could apply to the council CC8 and I could apply to the Citywide Council on District 75. So once you sign into NYCSA, as Lynn was describing, and based on your children and where they're enrolled, you will see which councils you are eligible for. Next question is, can I promote myself as a candidate in TV commercials and or shows? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my colleagues if we could put into the Q&A and share with everybody. There are campaign guidelines that are on our website, on our elections website, that basically share the do's and don'ts of what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. So as far as this particular question, TV commercials and shows, there is a limit as to the amount of money that one can spend in promoting themselves to be on a campaign, like creating flyers or promoting themselves, and that limit is $500. So conceivably, if you're going to be, on TV or in a show, that's a cost that would far exceed that and would not, in a sense, be allowable. But once again, I will defer to our campaign guidelines. We do have these campaign guidelines, and if there are any, as you're running, any additional questions on eligibility, what you can do or cannot do, the do's and don'ts are on our website, and they're pretty straightforward, but you can always email us at elections2025@schools.nyc.gov, and we can basically share any particular specific instance that you're unsure about as far as campaigning. And can we edit our personal statement after we have submitted our application? So I will double check with my colleagues on here. I think that I believe that is possible before the end of the application period. If you reach out to us or if there's some issue, I do believe we're able to do that. Correct me if I'm wrong, colleagues. I think that we can do that. And that's okay. I'm getting up an affirmative on that. It's only after the fact, after everything's been submitted, once the deadline has been submitted, that we're not able to make any more alterations. But the end of the application period is February 16th. So if there are some changes that one would like to make to a submitted application, just reach out to us here via elections2025@schools.nyc.gov. Let us know, and our colleagues will reach out to you to assist. Can you talk about the parent voting process? Do they read their personal statements before voting? Excellent question. So and I don't know if we can go back in the presentation to show the timetable. If we could just move the presentation back. I just wanted to show everyone when the candidate forum period was for the campaign. So what happens is that we do have an election period. Our election period started on January 13th. It runs through February 16th. And then what happens after that is that we have a series of what we call candidate forums that are hosted by our president's councils in each respective district. And we also have citywide candidate forums for the citywide councils. And that is the process where the candidates all come together. They talk about why they would like to serve. They're asked questions by the members of the President's Council, and that's where the general public has the opportunity to learn more about them, to learn more about, and we also encourage everyone. We also share on our website once the candidate forums begin. Candidate statements are on the website, so the general public can look up, the candidates in their respective districts and also see their statements, their personal statements, as well as have the candidate forums to be able to attend. And the candidate forums are virtual for the most part, so anyone can attend virtually and see the candidate forums and hear from the candidates directly. Let's see here. The next question I have here is, if I am a teacher in DOE, can I apply? No. So DOE employees are not able to run for either a community education council or a citywide council. For instance, I could not run, or my colleagues at FACE could not run because they're employees of the DOE. Are the monthly meetings online or in person? So per open meetings law, all of our citywide and community education council meetings are required to be in person. There are various councils who, through their bylaws, do stream their meetings, do have like a hybrid option, but the members are required to be in person for the meetings, and that's per open meetings law. And I just want to take a pause. I know we have more questions here, but I also want to take a pause and ask all of our interpretation lines if there are questions from attendees who are receiving interpretation services, and I'll, give the interpreters an opportunity to find out and then share with us if there are any questions. So we're just going to keep the line silent for a bit of time to allow our interpreters to communicate with our families who are receiving interpretation services.
Bengali line, no question.
Thank you.
Spanish line, there are no questions.
Thank you.
Mandarin line, no questions.
Thank you very much. So I thank you once again, interpreters. Next question here. Can I run for more than one district? If I do, who will elect me and for which district will I represent? So the answer to that is yes. Like your eligibility is based on, your children, either which district they're attending school or which program they are receiving support or services from. So for instance, if you had a child attending a school in District 7, a child is attending a school in District 4, and a child attending, a program within District 75, you're eligible for all those respective districts. You're eligible for the Citywide Council for District 75 because your child is in a District 75 program. You're eligible to run for CC4 because you have a child attending a school in District 4. And you're able to run for CC7 because you have a child who's attending a school in District 7. What happens in the application, though, is that it asks you to rank your preference. So it asks you to say, okay, so what is your first preference? What is your second preference? And what is your third preference? So basically, and who votes for you, to the point of the question as well, is that if I'm running for a community education council seat in District 4, then the parents within District 4 are, in a sense, voting for me. Similar with another district, if I'm running in District 7, parents with students in District 7 are voting, for my candidacy or voting for candidates. So those are the individuals that would vote for you, and you would rank your preference, and based on like if your first choice you were elected to your first choice, obviously that would be where you would go. If you were not elected to your first choice, but your second choice you were elected to, then that would be where you would go. Colleagues, anything that you'd like to add to that? Did I get everything there? Okay, seems like I did. And can I run for a CC even if I ran before? Absolutely, as long as you're still eligible. So as long as you have children within the New York City public school system, and they're enrolled in school in the New York City public school system, you are still eligible to run for a council. So it doesn't matter if you've run several times before, if you have children that are enrolled and are attending school currently, you would still be able to run. Are pre-K parents eligible to serve on the CECs? Yes, but let me explain, not all pre-K parents. So with respect to the law governing eligibility with regards to pre-K parents are only eligible if their child attends a pre-K program, what they call a pre-K program offered by a school under the jurisdiction of the community district. And the key term here is offered by a school. So programs in pre-K centers that are privately run are not considered offered by a school, and parents who are, who have students who are attending those private programs are not under the law eligible to run for a CEC. Once again, the pre-K eligibility is pre-K parents are eligible if their child attends a pre-K program offered by a school under the jurisdiction of the community district. And so a program that is privately run, not under the jurisdiction of the community district, not offered by a school, parents who have children in those respective programs are not eligible. Let's see, I'm sorry, I'm just going through. Okay, can we run for both District 75 and a citywide council, CCEC or CEC seat, or just one? You can run for as many seats that you are eligible for. So if I have 4 children and each of them attends a school in different districts, or I have 2 of them attending schools in different districts, and my 2 other children, one child has an IEP and another child is a high school student, then I'm eligible to I'm eligible for 4 different potentially 4 different councils. I could be eligible for the Citywide Council of Special Education because my child has an IEP, one of my children has an IEP. I could be eligible for a community education council in a particular district because my child attends this district and my other child attends a different district. So I'm eligible for those respective councils in 2 separate districts. And I am also eligible to apply for the Citywide Council on High Schools because I have a child in high school. So it really is dependent on where your children are going to school and where they're or what services that they receive that would determine their eligibility. So yes, you can. And many of our parents are eligible to run for several of our councils. And as I said before, and then when they go into the application, they rank their order of preference. Do you have to have a child? Next question is, do you have to have a child in New York City schools to apply? Yes. So the eligibility requirement to run for a citywide council or a community education council is that you have to have a child enrolled in a New York City school. The only exception to this is that if you have a child receiving special education services paid for by the New York City public school system, then they could be eligible to apply to either the Citywide Council on Special Education or a Citywide Council in District 75. And if you're in a situation like that, please feel free to reach out to us at elections at 2025 at schools.nyc.gov. But that's the only exception. Other than that, you have to have a child in our New York City public school system to apply. And then who gets to vote and how does it work? My colleague Lynn Sanchez was taking us through NYCSA previously. And so voting occurs within same way that you go on to NYCSA and apply. When the voting period comes when we get closer to the voting period, you would also utilize NYCSA to be able to cast your votes. Lynn, do you want to add anything to that, or?
The only thing I'll add, because I see there's a lot of questions about applying. I'm actually looking at a question from Miss Letitia Ojo. It's super important that we just log into our NYCSA account, right? We'll definitely drop the link to the NYCSA account here in the chat. But log into your NYCSA account. It'll direct you. You'll get some. It'll be highlighted in a color, and I'll tell you there's a prompt that says CC election. Please just go into that particular tab, click on it, and begin to submit an application. This is the only other way to do it, right? And NYCSA is also used for many other things. There's you can see your children's grades, attendance. It's a very useful tool. If you do not have a NYCSA account, please visit your school, your child's school, speak to your parent coordinator, make sure that you get the access code. There's a document that gets printed out and provided to you with an access code to begin to create the NYCSA account, and you can ask your parent coordinator to support you with just like creating the account there on the spot. And it's very password sensitive, so make sure that you jot the password down soon, like I'm sorry, not soon, but that you write it down somewhere and keep it safe, because it's not only being used when you go in to apply, it's also being used when you you have to vote on NYCSA. So NYCSA is very important in this process. During this process, you go in, you apply, but then you also go in during April 25th through May 13th, you go in to vote. So you'll be getting calls, right? Asking you if you voted. And the idea is that you would to then log back into your NYCSA account, remembering your password, and then you're voting again or voting then. I hope that helps, Jess.
No, thank you so much, Lynn. And I know that we're running to the end. So I want to, and what I will share is that we will reach out to the questions in the Q&A that we did not get a chance to address to be able to answer. I'm just trying to look. I'm trying to see that there are some questions that we've already answered, some duplicates. Let me see. Give me one moment, everyone. I think we have an opportunity. Well, one of the things I will say, because I do see a question that pertains to language. So if you are a parent whose first language is not English, you are absolutely encouraged and welcome to serve on the CEC. Because sometimes people will ask, well, I don't speak English. My first language is either Spanish or Mandarin. Can I still serve on the CEC? And I just want to say loudly, very loudly, that you are absolutely welcome to serve on the CEC, encouraged to serve on the CEC. What will happen in those instances is that you will be provided interpretation services. So if you don't speak English and speak another language, you will be provided interpretation services once you're elected in the language that you do speak. One of our CEC president of one of our CECs, receives interpretation services. She speaks Spanish and receives interpretation services in English, and she is the president of one of our councils. And so we encourage more parents to continue to apply and run. I see we're at 7 o'clock. I'm just looking for, let me see.
Just there's some questions around if you're serving on a council, can you still continue to serve and run for PAPTA SLT?
Yeah, I see that that there was. Thank you so much, BB. I see that there was a question about continuing to serve on your elected, like if you a PAPTA. Yes, you're able to continue to serve on those respective bodies if you get elected to the CC. Years ago, many years ago, that wasn't the case. So I do understand the question, but that has been changed to make it possible for someone to continue to serve. I know that we are at time. I want to just say that the questions that we have not gotten to, we will definitely be following up with those who've asked those questions to be able to share responses. I wanted to take this moment in time to really thank everybody for attending tonight's session. Once again, we will share the presentation with all on this call. We will also share the recording of tonight's session. As you see on the screen, there is a QR code that we have there for any additional questions. Please you can reach out to elections at 2025 at schools.nyc.gov. I know that we shared previously that on February 5th, and Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong, February 5th through February 12th, we're having the Zoom information sessions to assist prospective candidates with their applications. Is that accurate?
Correct.
February 5th and February 12th.
12th.
Wonderful.
5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m.
So, so that is, and if parents have questions as far as being able to the login information and all the information to be able to access those sessions, where can they go?
Constance, can you go back to the slide with the February, the information,
QR.
please? Thank you.
I just wanted to, before we leave, I just wanted to leave that up. Thank you so much, Constance. Thank you, Lynn. So once again, everyone, we wanted to thank you for attending tonight's session, and then also encourage you. There are Zoom sessions for application assistance February 5th and February 12th, and the purpose of that is to help you with completing your application. So, some of the questions we were able to answer, you may have additional questions as you continue to apply. We had many people attending tonight's session, and we definitely would love to see everyone who attended tonight's session apply to be a member of either a Citywide or Community Education Council. So with that said, I wanted to thank everybody for attending tonight's session. I want to encourage you to apply for the Citywide or Community Education Council. Please reach out to us once again at elections 2025 at schools.nyc.gov with any additional questions. And we look forward to seeing your application. And we thank you so much for your interest in applying to be a member of the council. So I wanted to wish everyone a good evening. Also wanted to thank our interpreters for their service this evening, and all of my colleagues at the Office of Family and Community Empowerment for their support, not only this evening, but their support of parent leaders in all of our work. So once again, good evening, and we look forward to, thank you so much for being at tonight's session. We look forward to seeing your applications.